On August 30th, just 7 weeks after arriving on campus, Baker Mayfield became the first true freshman walk-on quarterback in history to start a season opener at a BCS conference school. That day, he threw for 413 yards and 4 touchdowns while running for another. Texas Tech beat SMU 41-23. Mayfield hails from Lake Travis High School in Austin, Texas, where he led the Cavaliers to a state title his junior year. That season, the team went undefeated, and Mayfield threw for 45 touchdowns with only 5 interceptions. As expected, Division I scholarship offers started coming in from all over the country. And then they stopped.
He just thought he should have been somewhere by the time that the middle of his junior year rolled around, and he just wasn't getting the offers at the places that he wanted. And so then he decided he had his heart set on TCU, and unbeknownst to James and I, he told a reporter that, and so it was put out in writing, and that's where he wanted to go. And we knew he wanted to go there, but he didn't need to limit himself, but that's what he had his heart set on. So then, when we saw that the TCU thing wasn't going to happen earlier than Baker realized it, there were a couple other options, and they weren't good options, but Baker at that point was just so frustrated he was going to take one of them. And so that's what I mean. It was just, the disappointment of, why don't they want me?
Lake Travis was down slightly during Mayfield's senior season, posting a 9-2 record. And once his dream school, TCU, opted for another quarterback, Mayfield was suddenly left without many options.
And so going into his junior spring, a lot of Division I talent, or a lot of Division I scouts come through here, and we're looking at him. And he got an offer early on from Washington State. And Coach Morris, who's now the other Coach Morris, is now at Texas Tech, came down, recruited him, loved him. And so Washington State, Coach Leach and them, I think they offered Baker and one other kid. At that time, Baker was playing on our varsity baseball team, and he was a starter. He ended up being an all-state baseball player that year, and so he didn't get a chance to go up. I think it's in Pullman. I can't remember where Washington State is, but our baseball team played into June, and Baker obviously still hadn't committed. He had a few other offers from like New Mexico, Rice, and some smaller schools, but was very excited about opportunity to play in the Pac-12. Was still probably holding out. He wanted a Tech offer or a TCU or an SMU, but then I think we got a call that said, hey, we offered 2 kids, and this other kid, I think he was from Arizona, went ahead and committed. And so the scholarship was no longer offered to Baker. And so that was tough. He hadn't had a chance to go see him. They were excited about him, but I know how the college coaches are too. Recruiting's a crazy deal, and so they're going to offer it to 2 guys, and the first one to take it's going to get it. And so that kind of kept happening with Baker.
Mayfield chose to walk on at Texas Tech, where his former high school teammate Michael Brewer was the starting quarterback. A few months later, Brewer injured his back, and Tech was left with 2 true freshman quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think we thought he'd redshirt and then get him in the system and see how it went. And some situations happened, and he showed up, and he was playing really well and worked his way up from the young guy 7-on-7 at the end of practice to getting first-team reps and really ran with it.
From day one, and then as we got going, as we got going, he gets more and more reps, makes the most of them. And the thing is, there was a couple times in camp, the ball just seems to move. We moved the chains when he was in, and he made throws and made plays that you just kind of look at each other as coaches, you're like, wow, that's impressive. The throws he's making, off balance, running to his left, 40 yards downfield, as accurate as anyone. Very impressive.
After beating out fellow freshman quarterback Davis Webb, Mayfield started the first 5 games for the Red Raiders. And although a knee injury kept him out of the game against Iowa State, he has amassed almost 1,500 yards and 8 touchdowns in a season where he was not expecting to play at all.
It's crazy because you would think that with him, he'd be up tense and, kind of scared, but this dude is pretty incredible. We were in the huddle cracking jokes SMU game. I was like, okay, this is how he's going to react. It's cool. We can roll with this. He breaks the ice. He's a nice kid, but there wasn't a time in that SMU game, the first time we played with him in a game, that there was a time where I thought, okay, this kid's, might choke or just something signs, but no, he was ready to go from the start. He'd never looked back from there.
The reality was when we walked into the SMU stadium and walked down. As Gina mentioned, we always do the pregame with him. We've always done that. That's part of our process. And realized it wasn't a Lake Travis game, it was a Texas Tech game. And while that was impressive, the bigger effect was when we got out to Lubbock the next week against Stephen F. Austin. The crowd was huge, and the reception for Baker, I mean, that SMU game had sort of set up high expectations and approval by the Tech fans, and to hear the crowd response on his introduction that was tough. So I think that was the biggest set-in for me of the reality, is when he came out to that. See what you did?
They're not really covering up Amaro.
And Mayfield on the draw at the 10 to the 5, sidesteps into the end zone. Touchdown, Red Raiders.